A millionaire discovered a struggling boy with a baby in his arms. What happened next was amazing. Ethan sat on the cold curb, the world bustling around him, his heart heavy with a sorrow that felt too big for his 16-year-old frame. In his arms lay Rosie, the tiny baby sister who had become the focus of his life after their mother's unexpected passing. Just a week ago, their mother whispered love and life into his ear. Now, she was gone, leaving only an echo of a laugh that felt like a dream. An old blanket couldn't tea substitute for her warmth as Ethan cradled Rosie, and the smell of burgers and fries from the diner would never be enough to mask the stink of regret and responsibility. Tears welled in his eyes, but he swallowed hard, determined not to break in front of anyone. As he watched people pass by, their laughter contrasted sharply with his sorrow. He flinched when a luxurious car rolled to a stop beside him. The door swung open, and out stepped Jack, a millionaire known for his tech empire, his kindness often overshadowed by his wealth. Jack had everything: money, success, but in the moment their paths crossed, it felt as if the universe had aligned to teach him a lesson in humility and humanity. When Jack approached, Ethan's pride flared. He didn't want pity, he wanted a way out. Yet, Jack's sincere gaze locked onto his, and it felt as if the world faded away. "Hey there, buddy," Jack said softly, kneeling on the pavement. "What's your name?" Ethan hesitated. There was a fleeting moment, a heartbeat, where he thought about lying, about saying everything was fine. But in Jack's eyes, he found something more than mere curiosity. He saw genuine concern. "I'm Ethan," he finally managed, his voice barely above a whisper. Jack, undeterred by the overwhelming heaviness in Ethan's voice, leaned in closer. He listened as Ethan spoke his mother's illness, the weight of bills looming over them, the endless nights filled with worry. With each word, a spark ignited in Jack's chest. This boy was a fighter. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. As Jack offered Ethan a job at his company, he saw the fire in Ethan's eyes flicker, then dim. Pride, that relentless beast, grasped hold of Ethan's heart. "I don't need charity," he snapped, words sharper than he intended. Jack stepped back, confusion mingling with disappointment. Days turned into weeks, and just when Jack thought the chance to help Ethan had slipped away, a crisis erupted. Ethan learned that the landlord had decided to sell the building, moving them into a bitter void of uncertainty. Fear gripped him as he held Rosie, imagining her tiny fingers clutching nothing but darkness. With shaky breath and adrenaline coursing through his veins, Ethan made a desperate call. But it was Jack who answered, heart racing, ready to help. In that instant, both men stood at the edge of something transformative, a moment that could redefine everything they believed about life, connection, and what it meant to be a family. As they faced the chaos together, Ethan understood his own strength, and Jack began to see the depths of the world he'd often ignored. Would this be the moment where they forged a bond that could transcend their vastly different worlds? The uncertainty hung in the air as they prepared to take the leap together. Ethan's heart pounded in his chest as he ended the call. The connection had been brief but powerful. Jack's voice, reassuring and steady, echoed in his mind. "We'll figure this out together." He glanced down at Rosie, her tiny fingers curled around his thumb, blissfully unaware of the turmoil swarming around them. A part of him wanted desperately to believe that maybe, just maybe, help was on the way. Minutes later, Jack arrived with a resolve that radiated from his very being. He looked different, somehow focused and fierce, like a man determined to change another's fate. Ethan felt a flicker of hope battling against the shadows of pride that still loomed within him. Jack crouched down to Rosie's level, a soft smile breaking across his face. "Well, aren't you the cutest little one?" Jack said, his voice light. Rosie giggled, and for the first time, Ethan felt something more than fear. He felt a twinge of joy. After the pleasantries faded, Jack turned serious. "Ethan, I know you might be hesitant, but let us talk about options." Jack explained a plan that involved temporary housing, financial aid, and maybe even a way for Ethan to build a future outside of this suffocating struggle. Each word from Jack seemed to chip away at Ethan's defenses, but pride reared its ugly head. "I can manage," he muttered, brushing off Jack's intentions. "I can figure something out." Jack's brow furrowed. "You don't have to do this alone. Help is not a sign of weakness, Ethan. It's about community. It's about family." Family. The word stung. Ethan's vision blurred for a moment as memories of laughter and warmth washed over him. The picture of his mother encouraging him to stand tall amidst challenges pierced through his heart like a dagger. "Look," Jack continued, voice steady. "I'm not here to make you feel weak. I'm here because I see potential in you. I see strength. I want to help. That's what family does." Ethan squeezed his eyes shut. Could he take that leap? Trust someone who had everything while he felt he held nothing? "Let us put a roof over your heads first," Jack pressed. "Then we can talk about your future. There's room for you and Rosie at my place just until you get on your feet." That offer felt monumental, an olive branch thrown into turbulent waters. The thought of accepting help felt like surrender, but the thought of Rosie without a stable home felt unbearable. Reluctantly, he nodded, the weight of his decision pressing down on him. As the three of them drove away from the curb, Ethan caught sight of the only home he'd known. With each passing moment, a mix of grief and relief churned in his stomach. Jack shot him a glance. "We'll get through this together." The sincerity in his voice cut deeper than any flashy promise of wealth. Ethan took a breath, realizing he might just be starting a new chapter in a way he hadn't imagined, but as they pulled away, a flicker of dread ignited in the pit of his stomach. What if this newfound hope crumbled? What if he couldn't live up to all that Jack saw in him? In the quiet of the car, Ethan felt that uncertainty growing, a nagging sense of impending challenges. The past was no longer just a haunting shadow, it was still very much in play. Could he forge his future amid the echoes of loss and pain? As Rosie cooed softly, Ethan clenched his fists, ready to fight for her to find the strength he thought was lost. What lay ahead was unknown, but he couldn't let fear steer his journey anymore. "Let us do this," he whispered to himself, a newfound determination churning in his veins. But just as they turned the corner, a familiar face flashed before him from the sidewalk. It was the landlord, the same man whose hand had dealt them the cruel blow to their lives. Ethan's heart sank. Had he made the right choice? Everything felt like it was about to shift once more, and he braced himself for whatever was next. Ethan's pulse quickened as the landlord's gaze locked onto him. That face was more than just familiar, it was a reminder of every struggle he'd faced in this city. The man seemed to revel in his power, his smile twisted, as if he knew something Ethan didn't. "Ethan," the landlord called out, approaching with a swagger that unsettled Ethan further. "I see you found a more comfortable ride." Jack bristled beside him, subtly moving his body closer as if to create a barrier between Ethan and the landlord. "We're on our way to a safe place," Jack stated firmly, narrowing his eyes. The landlord's smirk widened. "Oh, really? I hope you don't make it too permanent. You don't want to lose what little you have left." Ethan felt every word like a punch. He wanted to respond, to shout that he was more than what the landlord had always seen, all the shame coded in that dismissive expression. But the sting of anger caught in his throat. Jack stepped forward, his presence commanding, "Let us go, Ethan. He doesn't concern you anymore." Rosie gurgled in the back seat, oblivious to the tension but adding innocence to the moment. She was his reason, the motivation deep-rooted in his soul. He took a deep breath, allowing her sweet laugh to wash over his emotions. The weight of the landlord's presence faded slightly. As they drove on, Ethan stared out the window, the blurry world passing by like fragments of his past, some beautiful, some painful. They turned onto quieter streets, and the faces bustling past looked friendly, warm, nothing like the landlord. Jack glanced at Ethan. "You okay?" Ethan nodded, but he wasn't. His thoughts raced, tangled in worry about the future. What if he comes back at us? Jack's expression was steady, reassuring. Then we deal with him together. You're not alone in this. But the haunting words of the landlord echoed in his mind. Did accepting help really make him weak? Was inviting Jack into his life a mistake that would open the door to vulnerability he wasn't ready to face? Just think of Rosie, Ethan whispered to himself. Just think of Rosie. She looked up at him, her large eyes filled with trust. In that moment, the weight of his pride felt trivial compared to her need. He couldn't afford to fail her. When they pulled into Jack's driveway, a quaint two-story home with a welcoming porch, anxiety stirred in Ethan's chest. "This is it?" he asked, half in disbelief. Jack gave a nod. "Home, at least for now. It's not much, but it'll keep you safe." Ethan stepped out of the car, with Rosie in his arms. As he looked up at the house, a new but familiar fear gripped him. It felt both like a sanctuary and a cage. Could a man like Jack really understand the shadows that loomed over him? Stepping inside, he caught a glimpse of what might be a new life, a fresh start. But doubt flickered inside him like a candle in the dark. What if I mess this up? He questioned aloud, his voice barely a whisper. Jack placed a hand on his shoulder, steady and reassuring. "You won, but you need to give yourself a chance." Taking a moment, Ethan let that sink in. For the first time, acceptance didn't feel like surrender, it felt like an opportunity. Just then, a soft coo from Rosie broke the silence. She reached up to touch Ethan's face, pulling him into the present. He smiled down at her. "Don't worry, little one. We're going to figure this out." As they stepped deeper into the house, a thought brushed against his mind. Could this really be the beginning of something better? But as the door creaked shut behind them, he felt a flicker of unease. It was a leap into the unknown. And just beyond the threshold, where shadows lingered, what awaited them? In that stillness, Ethan realized he had a choice. He could either cling to the edge of fear or embrace the uncertainty that came with taking that leap. The question hung in the air as Rosie burrowed into his chest, her warmth grounding him. Would he find the strength to fully embrace this new life, or would the past come crashing back? And that thought stayed with him as they moved further in, waiting for an answer as life twisted in ways he could never have anticipated. Ethan stood just inside the door, feeling the unfamiliar warmth surround him. The air was infused with rich smells from a nearby kitchen, hints of spices mingling, making him realize how hungry he was. As he cradled Rosie, her soft cooing resumed, almost as if she too sensed the heaviness of the moment. "Do you want to eat?" Jack asked, sensing Ethan's hesitation. "I could whip something up. Might be a good way to take your mind off things." Ethan hesitated again, unsure if he deserved such comforts. But the rumble in his stomach betrayed him. "Sure, that sounds nice." Jack led him to a small dining area, where a wooden table sat surrounded by mismatched chairs. The home was quaint with family photos hanging, dim lighting offering a cozy glow. There were signs of life everywhere, books stacked in the corners, an old guitar resting against the wall. It felt lived in and honest, almost like a far-off dream. With Rosie in one arm, Ethan sat down on a chair, its cushion soft against his weight. The flickering light from a nearby lamp cast playful shadows across the room, but the shadows inside him felt different. They were heavy, lingering anxieties clawing at him, urging him to retreat. "Ethan, I know it's overwhelming," Jack said as he rummaged through the kitchen. "But this is a good place for you. A fresh start. It's okay not to have all the answers right now." His voice was calm, yet it struck a nerve. Ethan watched Jack hustle around the kitchen, cutting vegetables, his movements light and easy. How could a man like Jack be so open when shadows like the landlordess still clung to Ethan's mind? "Why are you doing this?" Ethan finally asked, the words spilling out before he could stop them. "You don't even know me." Jack turned, pausing for a moment, considering the question carefully. "I see you," he said simply. "You're trying to do right by Rosie. That's enough. Everyone deserves a chance, a hand when they need it." Ethan's heart tightened. His chest felt tight as he absorbed Jack's words. He had never considered that anyone would see him as worthy of help, of kindness. In the past, every moment of struggle had taught him the opposite. Just then, Rosie reached out, her little fingers brushing against Ethan's cheek, yanking him back from the whirlpool of doubt. He looked down at her, that innocent gaze anchoring him. "What do you think, Rosie? Should I trust him?" Her eyes danced with unconditional love, and he found himself cracking a smile, the kind that felt forbidden yet cathartic. "I think if you can trust anyone, it should be me," Jack chimed in with a light laugh, the sound infectious. Ethan couldn't help but laugh back, a sound that felt foreign but free. It sparked something in him, a flicker of hope. If Jack could see through his armor of fear, maybe there was a flicker within him worth igniting. As Jack prepared a simple but delectable meal, they chatted about normal things, a favorite movie, how Rosie had started to laugh this week, the peculiarities that came with being a single dad. With each word, the weight of his past began to lighten. The world outside didn't seem so daunting, but in the quiet moments, lingering uncertainty taunted him. What if this was too good to be true? What if relief was only a momentary escape from a storm that would soon return? Ethan fought against that looming cloud. Just then, Jack turned, a plate of steaming food in his hands, warmth radiating from his face. "Here we go. Good food for good people." As Ethan took the plate, he felt the hesitation creeping back. Could he truly allow this moment of connection to grow, or was he destined for disappointment? Those nagging thoughts raced in his mind as the chime of Rosie's laughter echoed around the room, like a sweet enticement pulling him into the embrace of hope, and just then, he realized that perhaps disappointment was his old life. Maybe now, just maybe, this moment was his true beginning. But in the recesses of his heart, worries lingered on the edges, poised to pull him back. Could he truly let go? Would he step into the light, knowing the shadows still danced behind him, waiting to pounce? With that question nestled deep in his mind, Ethan took a bite and savored the taste of something he hadn't tasted in a long time. Possibility. Ethan took another bite, savoring the flavors that danced like music on his tongue. The warmth spread through him, reaching places he thought frozen forever. Jack smiled as he watched Ethan and Rosie, a glimmer of something deeper in his eyes. "You know," Jack began, stirring a bit of sauce in a pan, "I've been where you are. Took me a while to understand that asking for help isn't a weakness. It's part of being human." Ethan paused, letting Jack's words wash over him. He could feel the truth in them, but vulnerability was something he wrapped himself in thick layers to avoid. "What happened?" he asked quietly, almost afraid of the answer. Jack looked thoughtful for a moment. "Lost my parents when I was young. Took a while before I found some grounding. It felt like every step I took just dug the hole deeper. But it's like, there's light at the end of the tunnel. You just have to keep moving." Ethan's heart ached. Jack's story echoed in his own struggles, the pain of loss, the fight for survival. But there was something else there too, a glimmer of hope that began to wrap around him like an embrace. "What happened to you?" Ethan asked, eyes locking onto Jack. "I found people." Jack's smile grew wider. "And I learned that people want to help. I created my little community. We looked out for each other. I've tried to carry that with me since." Jack's words ignited something in Ethan. He realized that perhaps this moment wasn't just a fleeting glimmer. Maybe he was standing at the threshold of a community, an inlet to a life that wasn't dictated by fear and uncertainty. Rosie let out a delighted giggle, drawing both of their attention. She was reaching for the soft cloth napkin, her tiny fingers determined. Jack chuckled, "She's a little charm, isn't she?" Ethan couldn't help but beam at Jack's playful demeanor. "Yeah, she is. She's been my only spark." He looked at Rosie, the sheer joy radiating from her. "Children have a way of bringing us back to what really matters," Jack said, the tone turning serious yet tender. "They remind us to feel, to breathe, to hope." Those words settled in Ethan, stirring something he thought had dormant for years. The very essence of life: connection, laughter, unconditional love. Was this what he could give Rosie? A life filled with hope, not worry? As they finished eating, the conversation flowed effortlessly. They spoke of dreams, of what a simple life could hold for both of them. For every smile, every gaze shared, Ethan allowed himself to inch closer to believing that maybe, just maybe, he could embrace this new start, but just as he felt the warmth encapsulating him, the familiar tendrils of doubt coiled around his heart. What if this was a facade? What if he ended up losing Jack's help and kindness as quickly as he had found it? Jack noticed Ethan's shift in mood. "Hey, it's okay to have those thoughts. Change is scary. It takes time to settle in." Ethan nodded, wanting desperately to believe him. Just then, the sound of the door creaking open pulled them both from their thoughts. "Jack! You in here?" A voice called out, lightfoot yet authoritative. Suddenly, Ethan felt his pulse quickening. Who was this person? Jack turned, smiling at the scene unfolding. "This is Alex, my best friend. You might like him." Ethan's breath stuttered, panic evaluating the open door. What awaited him on the other side? Would this new presence push him away, or would it extend the hand Jack had offered? And in that moment, Ethan knew a crossroads lay ahead. Would he dash into uncertainty, or would he step forward and embrace the unfamiliar, ready for whatever came next? As Alex stepped through the doorway, a smile brightening his face, Ethan knew his journey was just beginning. Would he cling to those familiar shadows, or finally open himself up to love, connection, and community? Ethan felt a jolt of energy as Alex entered the room. The newcomer had an easy smile, bright blue eyes that twinkled with mischief, and an aura that radiated warmth. Alex was a stark contrast to the shadows that loomed in Ethan's mind, and for a moment, he found himself caught up in that smile. "Hey, Jack. What are you cooking up?" Alex's voice had a carefree lilt to it, but when his gaze landed on Rosie, it softened as he crouched down to her level. "And who's this little lady?" "This is Rosie," Jack replied, pride glimmering in his voice. "She's stolen Ethan's heart and just about everything in the kitchen." Rosie giggled, her innocent laughter breaking the tension that had just been brewing in Ethan's chest. Alex's eyes lit up as he interacted with her, and Ethan couldn't help but feel a warmth unfold in his chest. This man, who basically was a stranger, was doting on his daughter, making her laugh. What was it about him that made Ethan feel a bit lighter in his spirit? "Nice to meet you, Rosie," Alex said, grinning widely. "Any chance you're the boss around here?" Rosie nodded earnestly, as if fully aware of her role in this new dynamic. Ethan watched her, smiling at how her confidence bloomed under the attention. It reminded him of the fleeting moments when he felt hopeful, when the idea of a fresh start was vibrant and alive. "Ethan, this is Alex," Jack said, bringing him back to the present. "He's been my rock through everything. There's much you two can share." "Yeah, your home cooking could be the first common ground," Alex quipped, casting a playful wink at Ethan. Ethan fidgeted with the hem of his shirt. "I wouldn't say home cooking means much in my experience." He felt an awkwardness pang inside him. Here they were, two guys balancing roles: Jack, the seasoned mentor, and Alex, the jovial friend. And there he was, a man with a ragtag life, still trying to make sense of his place. Don't sell yourself short, man, Alex replied, his voice earnest. Everyone has a past. It's what you want to do with it moving forward that counts. Ethan looked at Alex, hearing the sincerity in his words. The heaviness inside him started to ease, if only just a little. But as inviting as Alex's energy was, the gnawing fear of being judged tugged at Ethan's mind. Yeah, I guess Ethan hesitated. Just it's hard to believe in community when you've spent so long feeling alone. Alex straightened, focusing intently on him. That's the thing, isn't it? We're all scared shitless underneath it all. But it's all about showing up. You've already taken the first step by being here. Ethan felt his defenses waver. What if he truly embraced this new cycle of friendship? Could he, with Rosie by his side, create something beautiful instead of clinging to his past? Jack had been right, maybe people genuinely wanted to help. Want to help me cook? Jack asked, snapping Ethan back to the moment. I can give you the basics, Alex can be the taste tester. Rosie can be our judge. What do you say, Rosie? Alex asked, supporting her on his knee. Should we whip up something amazing together? Yay! She cried out, her little hands clapping in excitement. As they gathered ingredients, laughter filled the kitchen. Alex was full of jokes and goofy impersonations, while Jack expertly guided Ethan through the cooking process. In that moment, with the smells of herbs wafting around and Rosie's joyful presence, Ethan felt as if the shadows had begun to lift slightly. Yet, somewhere in the back of his mind, a flicker of doubt remained. What if he couldn't sustain this brightness? What if he pushed too hard against the layers he had built for years? Ethan, Jack interrupted his thoughts, nodding toward Alex, you'll see. It gets easier, and you won't be alone anymore. As Ethan stirred the pot, his heart fluttered with anticipation but also with fear. Would he really allow these connections to grow? Would he embrace the warmth that Jack and Alex offered, or would he find a way to retreat back to his guarded solitude? Just then, the door swung open once more, and a tall figure stepped inside. The laughter died down, and all eyes turned toward the unexpected visitor. Sorry I'm late. Did I miss the party? The newcomer exclaimed, wearing a mischievous grin. Ethan's pulse quickened at the sight. Who was this person intruding on their moment, and how would they change the fragile dynamic that had begun to form? Who are you? Alex asked, curiosity gleaming in his eyes. The newcomer stepped fully into the kitchen, shedding the remnants of the cold outside. He brushed his dark hair back, showcasing a face that looked both refined and slightly rugged. I'm Blake, he announced, his voice smooth like melted chocolate. I was just passing by and heard the laughter. Couldn't resist. Ethan blinked in surprise. Everything about Blake screamed confidence. He strode in like he owned the place, and for a second, Ethan felt a surge of inferiority. This guy didn't just look wealthy, he presented an air of possibility that made Ethan feel small. Blake, meet Ethan and his daughter, Rosie, Jack introduced, trying to keep the atmosphere friendly. Nice to meet you, Ethan. Blake beamed, kneeling down to Rosie's level. And you're cooking? You've got to let me taste whatever it is you're whipping up, Rosie. Rosie eyed him with a mix of suspicion and intrigue, her little fingers reaching for the pot's wooden spoon. Are you a chef, too? She asked, tilting her head. Not exactly, Blake chuckled, but I'm a professional taster. Like tasting fine wine? Rosie replied, her brow furrowing in thought. Something like that. Blake grinned, his eyes sparkling. Ethan couldn't help but smile at their exchange. Blake's light-hearted demeanor seemed to brighten the space, adding another layer of comfort to the kitchen. Yet, a knot formed in his stomach. The intrusion of a wealthy stranger was one thing. Would this new dynamic drive Ethan further away from the acceptance he was starting to feel? Blake's been around, Alex said to Ethan, nudging him gently with his elbow. He often knows how to elevate a gathering, whether it's a dinner or a meaningful conversation. Yeah, you might say I'm good at bringing people together, Blake added, turning his attention back to the cooking. And right now, it smells like a party in here. Jack stated, if that's the case, we should definitely make some extra room for you. Want to join us? Ethan exchanged glances with Jack. The excitement in the room was infectious, but still, a wave of doubt crashed over him. What if Blake caused a diversion that split the budding connection he was feeling with Jack and Alex? He didn't want to retreat, but this was all brand new territory. Sure. Just tell me what to do, Blake said, his enthusiasm genuine. He moved to the counter beside Ethan, showing interest in the ingredients as he picked up a carrot, examining it with exaggerated focus. Ethan had to chuckle at Blake's antics. Maybe this guy wasn't all bad alright, Blake, peel those carrots. Jack instructed, pointing to the small bowl. While Blake worked, Ethan caught snippets of conversation drifting around the kitchen. Jack and Alex bantered about their own cooking fails, while Rosie asked probing questions, her youthful curiosity in full bloom. The laughter began to swirl with tangible energy. Ethan could feel the warmth seep deeper into him, coaxing away the shadows. Yet that pesky fear still lingered in the recesses of his mind. Blake, what brings you by here? Ethan asked, hoping to peel back the layers on this newcomer. Oh, you know, Blake quipped, tossing the finished carrots into another bowl. I'm sure you've heard stories about the big house on the hill? The one with the lavish parties? Ethan raised an eyebrow, waiting. Blake had an air of mystery, and he could sense more beneath that nonchalant exterior. I'm the one who throws those parties, Blake smiled. Sometimes it gets lonely, playing host to frivolous gatherings. I figured I'd pop into a real gathering today. Real? Ethan echoed, searching for implications in his words. You call this real? Blake shrugged nonchalantly. Absolutely. There is something more genuine about sharing food, laughter, and, he glanced down at Rosie, and a little girl who brings life to the party. Ethan's heart warmed at the compliment. It felt as if Blake was somehow recognizing the bond he was building with Rosie, one that gave him purpose. Yet as the night stretched on, a layer of tension built behind the laughter. What were Blake's true intentions? Would he remain a joy or become a hurdle in this fragile connection? Just wait until you see what's cooking up next, Blake said, his eyes glinting with an unreadable thought. And what's that? Ethan asked, a mix of anticipation and trepidation lingering in his tone. But before Blake could respond, the door swung open again. A chilling breeze swept through, accompanied by a voice that rang like a distant alarm. Blake! I knew I'd find you here. Ethan's heart sank, a sense of foreboding washing over him. What trouble was about to walk through that door? A tall figure appeared in the doorway, casting long shadows across the warm kitchen. Ethan couldn't make out their face at first, but the voice was unmistakable, sharp, commanding, and filled with a familiarity that turned his stomach. Lena? Blake exclaimed, his smile fading in an instant. He stepped forward, eyes narrowing as he studied the newcomer. Ethan felt Rosie slip her small hand into his. She sensed the shift too, peering out from behind his leg, her innocent face scrunching up in confusion. What was happening? Blake, you've been avoiding me, Lena said, her tone dripping with a blend of concern and irritation. And I'm getting tired of it. Yeah, well, maybe I wanted some space, Blake replied, crossing his arms like a shield. The air thickened with unspoken tension, and Ethan could feel Jack and Alex shift uncomfortably at the counter. What's going on? Ethan finally managed, breaking the silence that settled like concrete. He didn't want to feel the cold creep back into their cozy gathering, but it felt unavoidable now. Lena turned her gaze toward him, her eyes fierce yet engaging. I think the question is, who are you? Why are you here with Blake? Can't a guy make friends? Blake shot back defensively, but there was an edge to his voice that betrayed an underlying fear. It's not that simple, and you know it, Lena insisted. She stepped further into the kitchen, brushing past Ethan, her confidence demanding attention as she navigated the space with a certain ease. Ethan's heart raced. Part of him wanted to defend Blake. After all, he had injected life back into their evening. But Lena's presence was powerful, disrupting whatever fragile connection was forming between him, Jack, and Alex. Her energy felt authoritative, wrapping around them like the winter air creeping in through the doorway. Rosie tugged at Ethan's shirt, the little explorer releasing a soft murmur of worry. "Daddy, who is she?" "Just someone Blake knows," Ethan replied, forcing a smile for Rosie's sake while grappling with his own growing uncertainty. "It's not about who I am," Lena continued, her voice a mix of steel and sulk. "It's more about why he's here. You need to understand that he doesn't exactly show up for casual visits." "What does that mean?" Jack asked, apprehension etched across his brow. Blake sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I'll explain, just give me a second." His usual charming demeanor had dimmed, and Ethan could see the cracks start to form around him. An awkward silence fell over the kitchen. The laughter that had once spilled from all corners now felt distant, like a fading memory. Rosie shuffled closer to Ethan, her small eyes wide and curious, sensing the weight of words unspoken. "Blake," Lena pressed, her tone now tinged with urgency. "People are starting to talk. About you. About her." Ethan felt a chill race down his spine at the mention of her. The fog of confusion thickened. "What her?" Blake's shoulders slumped, his bravado crumbling. "It's not what you think," he murmured, barely above a whisper. Yet the hint of dread was unmistakable as he glanced toward Rosie. Ethan's heart stopped momentarily. He saw the truth lurking behind Blake's eyes, a tangled web he'd yet to fully untangle. It felt as if a dam was about to break, unleashing a torrent of revelations hiding in the shadows. "What have you gotten yourself into?" Ethan asked, worry seeping into his voice as Lena took a step toward Blake. As the tension suffocated the room, Ethan realized the stakes were higher than he'd ever imagined. There was more to Blake's charm than met the eye, and the delicate threads of connection they had begun to weave were suddenly hanging by a thread. "Blake, just tell them," Lena demanded, her eyes narrowing with impatience. "Before it's too late." The weight of the moment bore down on everyone, the laughter of the evening snuffed out like a candle caught in a gust of wind. What truth was lurking in the silence? Ethan's heart raced. Would this evening end in revelations or ruin? He could feel the energy shifting, the air thickening with the promise of a storm, as Blake opened his mouth to speak. Blake took a deep breath, his eyes darting between Lena and Ethan, before finally settling on Rosie, who still clung to Ethan's leg like a lifeline. The air felt charged, taut with unanswered questions and hidden fears. "Okay," he began, voice trembling despite his attempt at calm. "The truth is I've been working with someone. Someone who's in a lot of trouble." He swallowed hard, as if that would help him find the right words. "Her name is Emma, and she's in jail. She's the one people are talking about." Ethan's stomach tightened at the mention of Emma. He had heard rumors swirling around town, stories of someone Blake was close to. He never imagined it would be this complicated. "What did she do?" he asked, his voice a mix of curiosity and dread. "She didn't do anything," Blake rushed to explain, his frustration fighting with his sorrow. "She was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Everyone thinks she's guilty, but she's innocent, Ethan. I've seen the evidence. It's all buried under lies." The intensity of Blake's conviction pulled Ethan in, making it harder to dismiss the notion that trouble had tangled itself around Blake's life. Lena crossed her arms tightly across her chest. "You think fighting her case is going to fix anything, Blake? The odds are against you. You know that, right?" There was an anguish in her voice, as if she were wrestling with the thought of losing him to this struggle. "I have to try." Blake shot back fiercely, taking a step closer to her. His passion ignited something vulnerable in the room. She deserves a chance, and no one else seems to care. Ethan glanced down at Rosie, her small face now painted with concern. He knelt beside her, brushing a loose strand of hair out of her big, trusting eyes. "Honey, it sounds like Blake is trying to help a friend. It's a big task, but it's brave. But what if it doesn't work? What if he gets hurt?" She whispered, her worry spilling over. Ethan's heart ached at her innocence, the way she absorbed the heaviness of the world around her. How could he prevent her from feeling this burden? "I don't know, sweetheart. But sometimes, helping others means taking risks." Ethan's words felt weighty, the honesty of the moment filling the air. Blake looked back at Ethan, gratitude flashing in his eyes. "It's true," he added, his voice steadier now. "I can't walk away from Emma, not when I know she needs me the most." Is she the her Lena was talking about? Ethan wondered, feeling uneasy as the pieces started to click. Yes, Blake nodded, the weight of responsibility hanging heavily on his shoulders. "And if I don't act now, she might." He paused, realization dawning as the fear of consequences washed over him. "She could lose everything." "What do you need?" Jack asked quietly, stepping forward with an unexpected solidarity. "Maybe we can help you." Ethan looked at his friends, a flicker of hope igniting within him. A team could fight back when one person stood alone. People always came together in times of need. For the first time, Blake smiled, though it was laced with uncertainty. "I just need some help with the investigation. I have leads, but I can't do this alone." Alex leaned in with interest. "What leads?" Blake took a deep breath, the tension in his shoulders easing just a bit. "We need to track down someone named Sam. He was there that night, but he's been hard to find." "Then let us find him," Ethan said, feeling words of encouragement rise within him. "Together." Lena sighed, frustration melting into reluctant acceptance. "Fine. But if this goes south, don't say I didn't warn you." Ethan's heart raced. The storm brewing in their lives was merely beginning, and together, they might just stand a chance against the dark winds ahead. Would they uncover the truths needed to save Emma, or would they find themselves swept up in a whirlwind of turmoil? "Blake, are you sure you're ready for this?" Ethan urged, concern lacing his voice. Blake nodded resolutely, the fire in his eyes igniting again. "I'll do whatever it takes." As the evening shadows deepened outside, a sense of purpose enveloped the group. They were no longer just friends, they were allies in a fight to liberate someone caught in the murky waters of falsehood. Ethan stepped away from Rosie and moved closer to Blake, determination straightening his posture. "Then let us get started." With their plan forming in the flickering kitchen light, Ethan sensed a new chapter unfurling, one filled with the promise of danger and hope. What lay ahead was unknown, but they would face it together. "Where do we start?" Jack asked, looking between Blake and Ethan, ready for the challenge. And just like that, the conversation shifted, setting a trajectory into motion that would test their resolve, friendship, and courage. As the night settled around them like a comforting blanket, Ethan's heart raced once more. Would they have the strength to unearth the truth? Ethan sat on the edge of the kitchen table, his heart pounding in rhythm with the flickering light above. The world had shifted dramatically since Blake's revelation, and the stakes had never felt higher. Everyone around him, Jack, Alex, Lena, had become more than acquaintances. They were his new family, linked together by a singular purpose. "We're really doing this?" he asked, feeling the weight of the decision to help Blake seep into every pore of his being. Blake stood firm, determination etched into every line on his face. "We have to," he replied. "Emma's counting on us, and I can't let her down." "Not now." Jack and Alex exchanged a knowing glance. "We're in this together, Blake," Jack said, resolute. "Ethan's right. We won't let fear dictate our actions anymore." "Then let us find Sam," Alex added, the excitement mingling with apprehension in his voice. "We'll figure out where he fits into this puzzle." Ethan took a deep breath, looking down at Rosie, who was still nestling against his leg, oblivious to the chaos of adult lives swirling around her. "I promise, Rosie," he whispered into her ear, "we're gonna make it through this. Just like we always do." She looked back up at him with her big, trusting eyes, and for a moment, he felt the full weight of responsibility mixed with an untapped strength boil within him. As they divided their tasks, a plan began to take shape. Jack would handle the technical side, reaching out to contacts who might know Sam's whereabouts. Alex volunteered to widen the search in their neighborhood. Everyone knew a little gossip can go a long way. And Blake, the troubled heart of this team, would gather any leads he had on Emma's case. "Let us meet back here in 2 hours," Blake suggested, his voice steady, now backed by the strength of purpose. The others nodded in unison, a sense of unity swelling among them. Time sped by in a blur of activity. As Ethan navigated the world outside, the streets felt different. The murmur of conversations, the distant laughter, it all seemed surreal against his current mission. The weight of his past was still heavy. He couldn't forget the landlord, couldn't shake the fears that danced just beneath the surface. Yet with each step alongside Jack and Alex, a thread of hope weaved itself tighter around his heart. 2 hours later, they regrouped in the kitchen, tension mixing with excitement in the air. Jack had a couple of promising leads, a whisper about a guy named Sam who'd been spotted near a local bar. Alex had gathered a list of places where Sam was known to hang out, sometimes getting into trouble. Ethan felt a new surge of adrenaline wash over him. This was more than just about Emma, it was about redefining his own life, setting the course for Rosie as well. "Let us just go ask around," he said, his voice gaining strength. "The more we talk, the more likely someone will know something." What happened next felt like a whirlwind. Every moment spent knocking on doors, talking to strangers, and the initial dread slowly morphed into determination. Everything felt electric, as if the city's pulse synchronized with their mission. When they finally heard someone mention Sam, head of a small, rowdy crew that sometimes hung around the park, they moved quickly, knowing the fear of losing precious time. As they approached, Ethan could see Sam leaning against a fence, the embodiment of everything he strived to leave behind: the attitude, the weariness, and that flicker of regret that lived in the eyes of those caught in hard lives. "Hey, are you Sam?" Jack called out, stepping forward, commanding presence cutting through the noise around them. "Depends who's asking," Sam replied, eyes narrowing, calculating. Ethan felt a pulse of fear, but he pressed on, determined. "We're looking for Emma. We know you were there the night everything went down. We think you can help." Sam scoffed, pushing away from the fence. "Why should I care? You think I'm helping anyone? Not after what I've been through." Ethan's heart raced. This was not how he wanted this to go. "We're not asking for much, just the truth." The tension simmered in the air, weighty and thick. Sam studied Ethan, and for a moment, Ethan could see snippets of the insecure boy staring back at him, the one wrapped in circumstances far beyond his control. "Why do you even care about what happens to her?" Sam finally flipped the script, a buzz of anger lacing his words. "She's innocent," Ethan replied, feeling fierce warmth welling up, a protective instinct overtaking him. "And she deserves a chance to prove it." That seemed to catch Sam off guard. A flicker of something, maybe respect or recognition, shimmered in his gaze. "Fine," he said, finally caving. "But if I get dragged into this, you guys better be willing to face the mess." With that, a fragile truce formed between them, the air lighter somehow. Would this lead them closer to unraveling the tangled lies surrounding Emma's case? Every indication felt like a thread slowly coming undone, revealing the truth underneath. As they returned, Ethan felt the heavy fog of uncertainty start to lift. He might have been just a boy, but he had become part of something bigger, a community that stood together against shadows. He glanced down at Rosie, who giggled as she played with Alex, the little girl's laughter wrapping around them like a warm embrace. Hours later, they congregated at Jack's house, every piece of evidence laid out on the table. It was like a game of chess, with each new piece bring insight into the world of Emma and, in many ways, to each of their lives. Ethan felt something profound shift within. He was reclaiming his story, rewriting it with each bond he forged, every moment spent fighting for the things that mattered. And as they dove deeper into the investigation, Ethan understood this was more than just about truth, it was about family, about lifting each other up through the struggles, hand in hand, one step at a time. The warmth of newfound connection embraced him, igniting a flame that had felt extinguished for too long. Just as the night closed in, he looked around at this motley crew of people who had started as strangers yet had seamlessly woven into his journey. In that moment, Ethan vowed to welcome whatever awaited them next, ready to face it all, to fight for Emma, and above all, to protect the light of hope flickering in Rosie's eyes. Together, with fierce hearts intertwined, they would emerge victorious. He took a deep breath, preparing. "Let us do this," he said, words echoing with promise and determination. This was the moment, a chance to embrace the life that was rightfully his, not dictated by his past, but by the future he was finally ready to claim, and deep down, Ethan knew this was just the beginning. Don't wait not even one more second. Subscribe immediately to our channel to not miss the next exclusive stories that'll leave you inspired. If you believe in the power of community, leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us keep bringing these transformative tales. Comment your reactions and feelings about this dynamic ending and what it means to you. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation and rise to the challenge together. You need to show your support. Let's build this journey side by side.